Stop everything you're doing right now. Close your eyes for just a moment. Take a deep breath and ask yourself one simple question. Am I really learning English, or am I just pretending to learn? Because what I'm about to tell you will change everything you thought you knew about learning English. This isn't just another English lesson. This is the truth nobody wants to tell you. My name is David, and 5 years ago I was exactly where you are right now. Stuck, frustrated, confused, and ready to give up on English forever. But today, I want to share the one secret that changed my entire life, and I promise you by the end of this video, you will understand why you've been stuck. Not because you're not smart enough, not because you're lazy, but because you've been fighting an invisible enemy this whole time. An enemy that has been silently destroying all your hard work. So sit back, turn off all distractions, and listen carefully. Because this video might be the most important 40 minutes of your English learning journey. Part 1. The painful truth. Me guess your story. You've been learning English for years now, maybe 3 years. Maybe 5 years, maybe even 10 years of your life. You watch English movies with subtitles every single night. You download every grammar app on your phone and promise yourself you'll practice daily. You follow English teachers on YouTube and Instagram and TikTok. You buy grammar books that sit on your shelf collecting dust. You listen to English podcasts while you're cooking. While you're driving, while you're working out, you feel like you're doing everything right. You feel productive, but then something happens. A real moment arrives. Someone asks you a question in English at work or at a coffee shop, and suddenly your mind goes completely blank. Your heart starts beating faster. All those words you studied, all those phrases you memorized, they just disappear. You open your mouth and nothing comes out the way you want it to. You stammer. You hesitate. You use the same basic words you always use. And after the conversation ends, you replay it in your head 100 times. You think about all the things you should have said. You feel embarrassed, frustrated, angry at yourself for freezing up again. You promise yourself next time will be different. But next time, the same thing happens. And this cycle has been going on for months or maybe even years. You can understand English when you hear it. You can read articles and books. But speaking feels like climbing a mountain with no equipment. You're stuck on this intermediate plateau, and you don't know how to escape. Every night you lie in bed thinking, why is this so hard for me? Why can other people speak so easily, but I can't? Let me tell you something right now that might shock you. The reason you're stuck isn't what you think it is. It's not because you need to study more grammar rules. It's not because you need to memorize more vocabulary, words. It's not because you need another expensive course or another fancy app. The real reason you're stuck is hiding right in front of your eyes, and nobody has ever told you about it. Until today, Part 2, the invisible enemy. So what is this invisible enemy I keep talking about? Let me tell you a story first. A story about my friend Sarah. Sarah was a brilliant student, top of her class in everything. She studied English grammar for 6 years in school. She got perfect scores on every test. She could explain the difference between present perfect and past perfect better than most teachers. But when I asked her to have a simple conversation with me in English, she couldn't do it. She would freeze up, start sweating, and make excuses to leave. One day I asked her, "Sarah, why are you so afraid to speak?" And she told me something that broke my heart. She said, "But it's because every time I make a mistake, I feel like I'm stupid. I feel like everyone is judging me. I feel like I'm a failure." That's when I realized what the real enemy was. The invisible enemy isn't grammar. It isn't vocabulary. It isn't your accent. The real enemy is your mindset, specifically something called a fixed mindset. Let me explain what this means and why it's destroying your English progress. A person with a fixed mindset believes their abilities are set in stone. They believe they're either good at languages or they're not. They believe intelligence and talent are gifts you're born with, not skills you develop. So when it comes to learning English, their brain tells them lies. I'm just not a language person. My brain doesn't work that way. I'll never speak like a native. My accent is too strong and it's embarrassing. I have a terrible memory. I can't remember new words no matter how hard I try. Does any of this sound familiar? Be honest with yourself. This mindset is poison. It's a silent killer of your dreams, and its number one weapon is fear. The fear of making mistakes. You believe every error you make proves that you're not good enough. Every mistake confirms that little voice in your head saying, "See? I told you that you can't do this." And that fear controls everything you do. It's why you hesitate for 5 seconds before you speak. It's why you stay silent in group conversations even when you have something important to say. It's why you rehearse a sentence 10 times in your head and then the moment passes. It's why you prefer texting in English instead of speaking on a phone call. The fixed mindset makes you a prisoner of perfectionism, and perfectionism is the enemy of progress. You're so busy trying to avoid mistakes that you avoid the one thing you need. Most speaking, actually using English, making noise, making mistakes, learning from them. You've built yourself a comfortable prison, and that fixed mindset is the guard. It keeps you safe, but it also keeps you trapped. And I know this because I was trapped in that exact same prison. Part 3, my own storylet. Me take you back to 5 years ago. I was 22 years old, and I had just moved to a new city for a job. The company required all employees to speak English because we had international clients. I thought I was ready. I had studied English for 10 years in school. I had watched hundreds of English movies and TV shows. I had read English novels. I thought I knew English pretty well. But on my first day at work, reality hit me like a truck. During the morning meeting, my manager asked me a simple question. "David, can you tell us about your previous work experience?" I froze. My mind went completely blank. Everyone was looking at me. I could feel my face turning red. My hands started shaking. My heart was pounding so loud I could hear it. I opened my mouth and what came out was a disaster. I worked before in a company. Good experience. Yes. People were staring at me with confused looks. My manager smiled politely and moved on to the next person. I wanted to disappear. I wanted the ground to swallow me whole. For the rest of that day, I didn't say a single word. I ate lunch alone. I avoided eye contact with everyone. When I got home that night, I cried. I felt like a complete failure. I thought, how can I be so bad at this? I studied for 10 years. That night, I made a decision. I would fix this problem. So I did what most people do. I bought more books. I downloaded more apps. I subscribed to more YouTube channels. I spent 3 months studying grammar rules every single night. I memorized lists of advanced vocabulary words. I watched English content for hours every day, and you know what happened? Absolutely nothing changed. When I tried to speak at work, I still froze up. The words still wouldn't come out naturally. I was still terrified of making mistakes. I was consuming more English than ever, but I wasn't getting any better at speaking. I was stuck in what I now call the consumption trap. And then one day, something happened that changed everything. Part 4. The moment everything changed. It was a Friday afternoon. I was sitting in my apartment, frustrated and exhausted. I was watching another English learning video on YouTube, and the teacher said something that made me stop and think. He said, "You don't have an English problem. You have a mindset problem. You're treating English like a subject to study instead of a skill to practice." Those words hit me like lightning. Realized I had been approaching English completely wrong. I was studying English like I was preparing for an exam, but real life isn't an exam. Real life requires you to speak, to communicate, to make mistakes. I had been so focused on being perfect that I forgot the whole point. The point isn't to know English. The point is to use English. That weekend, I made a radical decision. I decided I would stop consuming English content and start creating. I would stop being a passive learner and become an active user. On Monday morning, I walked into the office with a new mindset. Instead of avoiding conversations, I forced myself to participate. In the morning meeting, when my manager asked a question, I raised my hand. My voice was shaking. My grammar was terrible. I made multiple mistakes, but I spoke. I pushed words out of my mouth, and you know what happened? Nobody laughed at me. Instead, my colleagues smiled and said, "Good point, David." That small moment gave me a tiny bit of confidence. The next day, I spoke again. And the day after that. Every day, I made it a rule to speak English for at least 10 minutes. I didn't care if I made mistakes. I didn't care if I sounded stupid. I just focused on one thing: communication, not perfection. And slowly, something magical started happening. The words started coming faster. The grammar started feeling more natural. My brain stopped translating from my native language. 3 months later, I was having full conversations with clients. 6 months later, I was leading meetings in English. 1 year later, I got promoted because of my communication skills, the same skills I thought I would never have. But here's the truth. I didn't become perfect. I still make grammar mistakes. My accent isn't flawless, but I'm fluent. I'm confident. I can communicate effectively, and that's what matters. Part 5. The 3 Deadly Traps Now. Let me share with you the 3 deadly traps that keep people stuck. These are the mistakes I made and the mistakes I see people making every single day. Trap number 1. The more is more mentality. When people feel stuck, their first instinct is to do more of what they've always done. My speaking is bad. I need to memorize more vocabulary. I keep making mistakes. I need to do more grammar exercises. So they download another app, buy another book, watch another course. They believe that if they just consume enough English, they'll magically become fluent. But here's the hard truth. Consuming and using are completely different things. Watching 100 movies doesn't teach you to speak. It's like watching 100 videos of people playing guitar and expecting to become a guitarist. It just doesn't work that way. You become a professional spectator, not a speaker. Trap number 2, lazy speaking. When you do speak, the fixed mindset makes you play it safe. You stick to simple words and sentences. You already know. You never try that new phrasal verb you learned because you're not 100% sure. You avoid complex grammar structures because they feel risky. So your speaking stays at the same level forever. You're talking, but you're not growing. You're comfortable, but you're not improving. Trap number 3, mistake catastrophizing. Someone with a growth mindset sees a mistake as feedback. They think, oh, it's interested in, not interested on. Got it. But someone with a fixed mindset sees that same mistake as a personal failure. They feel shame, embarrassment, and fear. That negative emotion makes them even more scared to speak next time. And so the cycle continues. Fear leads to silence. Silence leads to no practice. No practice leads to no improvement. You're stuck in a loop and you don't know how to break free, but I'm going to show you exactly how to break free right now. Part 6. The solution. The solution isn't a new app or a new course. The solution is to completely change your approach to learning. You need to shift from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset. A growth mindset means believing your abilities can be developed through hard work and practice. It means knowing your brain isn't fixed. It's a muscle that gets stronger. So how do you actually make this shift? Let me give you 3 practical strategies. Strategy number 1, the rule of 3. For every piece of English content you consume, you must create something 3 times. Let's say you watch a 10-minute YouTube video. Don't just click on the next one. First, speak. Summarize the video out loud for 60 seconds. Second, write 3 sentences using a new word or phrase you heard. Third, teach. Explain the main idea to an imaginary friend as simply as possible. This forces your brain to actively use English instead of just recognizing it. Strategy number 2. Think in English on purpose. Translating in your head is a speed bump on the road to fluency. You need to train your brain to think directly in English. Start small. Narrate your daily routine in your mind. I'm opening the cupboard. I'm grabbing a mug. I'm pouring water into the kettle. It feels weird at first, but you're building new pathways in your brain. You're making English your internal voice instead of a foreign language. Do this for just 5 minutes every day and watch what happens. Strategy number 3. Embrace imperfect speaking. This is the most important strategy of all. You have to give yourself permission to be messy. Set a small goal. Speak English for 5 minutes every single day. Record a voice note on your phone. Talk to yourself in the mirror. Describe your day, your feelings, your plans, anything. The goal is not to be perfect. The goal is just to make noise, to get your mouth and brain working together. Nobody expects you to sound like a news anchor. Let yourself off the hook and just practice. Part 7. The transformation. When I started applying these strategies, everything changed. I stopped spending hours watching English content passively. Instead, I spent 30 minutes actively creating, speaking, writing, thinking. I stopped obsessing over grammar rules and started focusing on communication. I stopped being afraid of mistakes and started collecting them like trophies. Every mistake became a lesson. Every conversation became practice, and within 3 months I noticed something incredible. English was no longer something I studied. It became something I used. I started dreaming in English. I started thinking in English automatically. My colleagues stopped seeing me as the quiet guy who never spoke. They started asking me to lead presentations and handle client calls. 1 year later, I got promoted to a senior position. My salary doubled. My confidence exploded. But the biggest change wasn't external. It was internal. I stopped seeing myself as someone who's bad at languages. I started seeing myself as someone who can learn anything with the right approach. That shift in identity changed not just my English, but my entire life, and I want the same thing for you. Part 8. Your turn right now. You have a choice. You can close this video and go back to doing what you've always done. Keep watching movies. Keep doing grammar exercises. Keep staying in your comfort zone. And 6 months from now, you'll still be stuck in the same place. Or you can make a different choice. You can decide right now that today is the day everything changes. You can adopt a growth mindset and commit to active learning. You can start speaking even when you're scared. You can make mistakes proudly and learn from them. You can transform from a passive consumer into an active creator. I'm not going to lie to you. It won't be easy. There will be days when you feel embarrassed. Days when you want to give up. But I promise you, if you stick with it, the results will blow your mind. 3 months from now, you'll be having conversations you never thought possible. 6 months from now, you'll be confident speaking English in any situation. 1 year from now, you'll look back and barely recognize the person you are today. But it all starts with one decision. The decision to start now, not next week, not after you finish one more course. Right now, today, this moment.